This conference will now be recorded.
Well, very good morning. Morning. So difference between virtualization and a containers. So what's the difference? Static. What is static? Yeah. So resource allocation for containers is static, and for virtualization, it is static. Containers it is dynamic. Okay. And then yeah, containers don't need guest OS. Virtual instances need guest OS. Okay. That's guest OS. No guest OS is required. Containers. Okay. Good. So and then I think we are done with installation, right? Okay. Then the installation also we have run and container. So what type of image we have run? Ubuntu we haven't run yet. Did we run it? Yes. Okay. So we are in hello world image, but when the image was run, the containers were creating. And what was the status of the container? Exited, right? The status was exited. So why the containers were exited? So container was exited because we'll talk about the reason. So so when you run an image, the container must be in up state. So instead, the container is going into exited state. So why they're going into exited state? So we'll see that now. Right. So let's take a different image. So I'm going to take an Ubuntu image. Okay. Then we'll try with Jenkins. Okay, let's see. And this is important. So we talk about port mapping. So this is a very important concept. But so moving on to instance. Where is the instance? What was the instance name? So this was the instance, right? Let's move on to so go with Docker images. So what is the image name? Hello world image, right? So check the list of containers, list of all containers. What is the command? ps-a. So the container status were exited, right? So why it's exited? Why this is being stopped? Let's see. So let me try with another image. I'm going to pull Ubuntu image. On the Docker history. So try with Docker pull image name Ubuntu. Then, so pull the image. It is pulled, and then so Docker images. There is an image which is Ubuntu image. Okay. So let's run that image. So what is the command to run the image? Docker run and then Ubuntu. And so do I need to mention the tag? So if the default tag is latest, you don't need to mention the tag name. If the tag is something other than default, mention the tag other than latest again. So how do I see the list of running containers? Docker ps. So do we have the container running? No. What is the status? Again, what's the status? Exited. Why it's exited? Why this is stopped? So this is stop because whenever I run the container Docker run Ubuntu, the container must be run in interactive mode. So what is interactive mode means? As soon as I run my image, there will be a container created, right? So when the container is created, I want to log into the container. Yeah. How do I log into container? With -i. I stands for interactive mode. Then, so also go with an option called T. T stands for terminal. So what type of container this is? Is it Ubuntu container, which is an OS container? Right? Since it's an OS container, the container must be run in interactive mode and with some terminal. So OS terminal always needs some terminals to run the if I want to log into the container and run the container, then I must have some terminal to run the commands in the container, right? So what is the terminal I want to use? That is what is T stands for. T stands for terminal, and then your terminal name, a bash terminal. But where is this terminal? We're assigning to the container. Am I clear? See, container does not have any terminals. It is just like and file we are. It is just like an executable. So file. Okay. Then, but that container, how it can has a terminal assigned? From where we are assigning the terminal to the container? We are assigning terminal to the container from where? So we have only one thing. What is that? Apart from guest, what else we have? Host from the Docker host. Right? We are assigning terminal for the container which I am going to create and from the Docker host. And what is my host terminal is bin bash. Okay. Now enter. We are in the container. And what is the terminal? Which is an bash terminal. So what is my container ID? That's my container ID. Okay, you want to create some. So let me go with 1 second. I'm going to create and duplicate session for this. Log into it. Okay, so this is my host and this is your container. Okay, so this terminal is for my container. There we have container running, and I have another tab. This is your host tab. Okay, now on my host, so Docker PS, is my container running now? Yes, container is running. That's my container ID. Is it the same container? That's a same container. Now, so we have host, container running side by side. And you want to make some files in here. So something like some directories and some files. So these files and directories, so where are we creating? On the container. We are creating them on the container. Okay, well, so can you see the files from the host? So I've created some files on the container. So the files are created on the container. Can you see those files on my host? Can you see the data of the container from the host? So if you want to see the data of the container, you must be in the container only. So for example, you have a virtual instance. You created some data on the virtual instance. Can you access that from the host? If you want to do it, you must log into the guest first. You must log into the virtual instance. Then you can see the data, right? Well, now, why the container was not created in yesterday's session? Why this container is created? Of course, container also created in yesterday. So why it was not in upstate? What was the reason? Yeah, it does. We have not assigned any terminals since these Ubuntu and even Hello World. So those kind of Hello World is just a test image. Forget about it. So this is an Ubuntu, right? Ubuntu is an OS container, and when I was run that initially, that container, that image was not assigned with any terminals. So that's why it is in stop status. Now, whenever I run that in interactive mode with some terminal assigned, it is in up status. Okay. Well, now how do I stop the container? From the container, you can exit. You can do that exit. Okay. Now we are back to the host. From the host, what is my container status now? What is the container status? Exited. And then what is the terminal we have assigned? In bash terminal. Okay. So you can see that when this was created, when this was exited. So that's your status. Then what if I run the same image Ubuntu and then interactive mode with terminal? Okay, I run this again. So what will be the result? Is it going to create a new container? Yes. So already container. So you said that. So we are going to use the same existing container. Okay, is it correct? So since look at the command. So whenever I run an image, it creates a new container. Whether you run that same Ubuntu image 100 times it is going to create 100 different containers. See, it's created, and again you exit, but exit, and then go with Docker ps-a. So this is a new container, right? It's a new container. So this is our new container. That's our new container, and it's exited about 3 seconds ago. And previous container was a previous container. So since I have run that image, it has created a new container for us. Okay. Now, so why this has created new container? So that is the command. So run command creates a container. That's it. Okay. So, but what if I want to log in with my existing container? I don't want to create the containers. I have some data in my existing container. I want to log into the container. So how do I do that? What was that? What was the command? Container ID. Docker run. What was that? Container ID. What is the message? Unable to? What is that? So what is the command? Docker run command? What is the command? What is the syntax? Docker run image name or image ID. Is it an image? What is that? Yeah. Do we run the containers? We run the images, we don't run the containers. Okay. So, but that was a good guess, but it is incorrect. Now, what is the syntax then? So syntax is Docker execute. So executing containers means logging into existing container. Container was already created. I want to log into the container. They can go with execute containers. Okay. Now, so Docker execute, and then the container ID. Then what? So just like whenever I was running that image, I've used some special flags. What are they? -i, t, and then terminal. So bin bash. But so what was the message again? The container is not running. So if the container is not in running state, you cannot execute a container. So start the container first. How to start the container? What is the current status of the container? Exited. So start that. How to start it? Docker start, and then not run, start. Okay. So run means image run. Okay. So run. Sorry, typing mistake. Docker. So what is the status? Now you can check the status again. So go with, sorry, clear. Docker ps. What's the status is? It is in up status. Now I can execute it. Docker execute -it, and then what is that? Container ID, or you can take the container name. Both are correct. So we are in the container. Okay. So this command is important. What is Docker execute? So that's a question. So what is Docker execute, or how do I log into the containers? I don't want to create new containers, but I want to log into the existing container. Okay. And the difference between Docker start versus Docker run. What's the difference? Yeah, Docker run is for to run the image. Start is for to start the containers. If the container status is exited, you start the containers. So if I want to exit from the container, how do I exit? Exit. Okay. Then Docker ps So if I exit from the container status must be exited, right? Why this is up status? We haven't stopped. Okay. But initially, when I logged into container for the first time, so when I exit that, container was automatically exited. But why it is not exited this time? Execute. Okay, before execute, what did we do? We have started, right? So if the container is started with the command start command, then container must be stopped with the stop command. Okay, so container stop and then ID or name. Now, so container status is, what's the status? It is exited state again. Okay, so is it clear what is execute, what is run? We have discussed few commands: docker run command, start command, stop command, execute command. Okay, these commands we have gone through. But now this is an OS container. Since it's an OS container, Ubuntu is an OS container, so we log into the container in interactive mode. But what if I want to log in? Okay, so what if I want to create an application container? So let's take an example, which is Jenkins. Is Jenkins an application or not? So I want to take a Jenkins application and then run that Jenkins image. Let's see. So go with Jenkins. This is again a Docker image, and so there are full Jenkins. So Docker full and Jenkins, and the tag is latest. But what is the message? Latest not found. Open the image. In the tags, scroll down. So do you see any tag name with latest? See that tag, we have 2.60.3 and something like hyphen alpine, and then we have 60.2, we have something. Okay, but do you have any tag with latest? No, we don't have any tags with latest. So then I would take this one. So what is the tag is 2.60.3. Okay, so that Docker full Jenkins and then so 2.60.3. So what are they? Why we have these numbers? So these are what we call them layers. So Docker image has a concept called layers concept. So we talk about this layers concept in our Docker files concept, not now. But anyway, these are called them layers. Now, so was it downloaded? Yes, downloaded. And so Docker images. So we have successfully pulled it. And what is the tag now? 2.60.3. Now I run that Docker image, Docker run Jenkins. So, but this time, do I need to run that in interactive mode? Why not required? Yeah, this is not an OS container. This is an application container. So I don't need to run that in interactive mode. But so enter. Unable to find image. Jenkins latest. What is that? Tag is, what is the tag? The default tag. What is the default tag is latest. But do you have the latest tag? No, there is no latest. There is a different number. So go with so docker run Jenkins and then with tag. Now image will be run successfully. Right. So that is the Jenkins installation. There is no, you don't need any Tomcat, you don't need to do the port number mapping, so nothing. So Jenkins is up and running. Now, how do I log into Jenkins? So Jenkins container is running, right? But I want to access the Jenkins page, Jenkins homepage. Remember the Jenkins homepage? Now tell me, how do I get the Jenkins homepage? Local host IP. Okay. Okay. Right. So now we need a browser, right? Obviously, if you want to log into Jenkins, okay. How do I enter here? Host IP. Where is my host IP? That's my host IP. Okay. Anything else? Sorry. 8080. Okay. Is that all? Container. Container ID. Well, let's. So does it work if I do this? Why it works? How does it work? Say trying to access my host and then port 8080. But is Jenkins is running on the host? Where Jenkins is running on? Container, right? Jenkins is running on the container, not on the host. So that does not work. Fine. Then, so you said container ID / container ID. But so before I do that, so this Jenkins is full and up and running. Don't close this terminal. You don't use that Control C. Don't close that. If you close this, Jenkins will be terminated. Your container will be stopped. Okay. Don't do that. I open my another tab. This is my host tab. Let's check that. What is the status of the container? Up status. Okay. And what is the image? That's image. Okay. Now take the container ID. I go with Docker inspect and then container ID. What Docker inspect is for? Docker inspect is for gives Docker in details. Docker details everything, something like IP address, your container IP address. What is the container IP address? See, like an instance also has an IP address, right? Right. So when you go with instance has an IP address or not? Virtual instances. The same thing you also have container IP address. On this container, so where Jenkins is running on, Jenkins is running on port number, which is 8080 port number. Okay. Now tell me how do I access this? So I have container IP and then Jenkins is running on the container with 8080 port number. What do I enter in the browser? Container IP. (172.17), I think 02 something. Okay. Is it 02 or 03? 02. Okay. Is it correct? Can I do this? Why? Why I can't do this? Someone said services. What service? TP. An HTTPD service on that instance. Okay. But your container is running on, sorry, your Jenkins is running on a container, right? Not on the host. Okay. HTTPD service is required. That service is required, but that's not the concept here. So, but the word service word is correct, but we'll talk about in Kubernetes. But so now, how do I access it? The container IP and then 8080 port number does not work. Why it does not work? Containers cannot be accessed outside of the host. Containers cannot be accessed outside of the host. That's never possible. That is not the concept of the containers. That's never possible. So, for example, you have a virtual instance. If you know my virtual instance IP address, can I access my Jenkins? No, right? Same thing. You know my container IP address, then you know the Jenkins port number. Can you access my Jenkins? No, right? Then how is that possible? Now, what we can access? We cannot access the container, but can we access the host? Host can be accessed. Host can be accessed, but the container cannot be accessed. So the concept is, so here is my browser. This is my browser from remote location. That's my browser. And then, so this is my host, Docker host. And on the host, we have a container. So within the container, there is Jenkins. Okay. So this is my browser host. So on the browser, so what do we enter? That's the question. So here in the URL, what do we enter? Okay. So first take your, this is your host, right? What is my host IP address? That's a host IP address, right? Okay. Host IP address. Okay. And then okay. Then this is my container, right? What is IP address? 172.17.0.2. Then this is your Jenkins. 88. That's Jenkins. So this is how the architecture looks like inside. So you have host, your container, within the container you have Jenkins. Now in my browser, what do I enter? That's the question. So can I access the container? Can I enter the container IP address? Absolutely, that is not possible. Why? Containers are accessed within the host, not from the outside. So what do I go with? So it must be host IP address. Okay. So host IP address. Then what? Container IP. Does it see how the URL looks like? URL always IP address with port numbers. You don't have so slash IP address /IP address. Okay, that's not correct. Then what is the concept is? So whenever you enter that and you are trying to contact your host, that is my host. But so Jenkins is running on the container and then with port number 8080. So what do I do? Whenever I run my Jenkins image, since Jenkins is running on the container 8080 port number, when I run my image, I map the port number of Jenkins container 8080 onto the host. I map the port number. So now on a Jenkins host, what do I enter over here? I enter 80, 80 or 8081, anything. You enter some port number. So what does it mean? Jenkins container is mapped to the host on 8081. Then in my browser, so with IP address and then port number. What port number I enter? Do I enter 8081 or 8080? 8081. We access only host, not the container. Again, right? Now in this case, first, what is the first part? The host, your host IP address. There is your host IP address, and then from on there, what's the port number? 8081. But on that port number, something has been mapped. What has been mapped? Jenkins container port number, right? So what will be loaded now? Then you have Jenkins loaded. So simply we map the container port number to the host port number. That is the concept. But let's see how do we do that. Now is the concept clear? Port number, why we map the port numbers? Let's see how do we do that. Now I am going to stop it. You can use Control C to terminate that. And then Docker run Jenkins. Now, how do I map the port number? With a flag -p. P stands for port. And how do I do that? So first you enter the host port number. What is the host port number? 8081. Can I use 8080? Anything. You can use anything. Okay. Then colon. What else? Yeah. What is that? Container port number, which is 88. And the default is 8080. Can I change the default port number? Can I change this container port number? Container port number cannot be changed. That is default. You cannot change it. Defaultly, your Jenkins will be running on the container 8080 port number. You cannot change it. But can I change the host port numbers? Yes. That is my host. I can change my host port numbers. So I can go with 8080 or 8081, whatever you want. You can just change it. Okay. So that's it. That is the port number mapping concept. Now enter. Okay. But again, the same issue. What is that? 2.60.3. Okay, so it's up and running. Well, so now host IP address and then port number is 8081. So it's Jenkins. So we have Jenkins. Okay. Now, what is the initial admin password? Where do I get the password? When I run the container, there is initial admin password. Just continue. Now you can go with install some suggested plugins. So, or else you can select the plugins to install. You go with install suggested plugins, but this plugins installation will be a failure. So the reason is, so what's the version? 2.16.3. Is it like outdated version or not? What is the latest version is? What version did we use for our sessions? 2.82. It is 2.82. The 2.82 was existing about 4 years ago, not now. 2.282, not 82. 282, 282. There's a difference between 80 and 282, right? So we might have used 80, 282 or 281 something. Okay. So now the latest is 283. Now you just go with. So you can also select some plugins if you want to install it. You can go with install these plugins. I don't want these plugins. Okay. And then just install them. Okay. So the plugins installation is a failure. That's okay. So don't worry about it. You just cancel it, and as usual, start Jenkins. Jenkins is up and running. You just upgrade your Jenkins first. This is a Jenkins version, right? Upgrade your Jenkins and then start working with Jenkins on Docker. Yeah. So can we run multiple Jenkins containers? On the same host, different port numbers. So I can have one container with 8081 port number, other container with 8082 port number. Yeah, that's possible. So if I close this terminal, your container will be terminated, right? Can you access Jenkins? So that is not reachable. So your container is, Jenkins is running on a container, but it has been mapped to the port number of the host. So if you stop your container, Jenkins is terminated. Okay. And I want to start the same container again. I want to start the same container. I don't want to create a new container. I want to start the same container. Yeah, what was that? Docker start and then your container. So it should be running. It's loading. So it will take some time, but it will load it successfully. There it is. Jenkins is loading now. Okay. Now, can I log into the container in can I log into the container in interactive mode? And moreover, why do I want to log into the container? So that's the Jenkins container. Why do I want to log in? Say on Jenkins, for example, I'm creating some jobs. I have some configurations on my Jenkins. I want to see all the configurations of my Jenkins on the backend. So I've created some users, I've created some jobs. Where are they are saved into? On Jenkins? Jenkins? Container or host? Container. Say, simply you talk about your virtualization concept. On my virtual instance, I have installed Jenkins. Right? I've created some jobs on Jenkins. So where are they created? Where is my Jenkins home directory? Is it on the host or is it on the virtual instance? Where did you see the .jenkins home directory? Is it on the virtual instance or is it on the host? What is host in virtualization concept? Your virtual instance, then you have a host. So what is a host? What is a virtual instance? What is a guest in virtualization concept? Virtual instance itself is a guest. So what is a host? Wherever your virtual instance is running, yeah. So wherever VMware is installed on your Windows, that is a host. That's why I said these terminologies are important. So at the time of creating virtual instances, I said this. Remember these terminologies. Okay. Well, now I want to log into my Docker host. Now, do you understand why I want to log into my Docker container? Why I want to log in? I want to see my Jenkins configurations, or simply you can say Jenkins home directory. Okay. Now, so Docker. How do I log into the container? Execute, and then container ID. Sorry. Hyphen. So now we are in the container. I want to check my Jenkins home directory. What is Jenkins home directory? Is it something like .jenkins? No. So in Jenkins container, you can find the Jenkins home directory in var and then cd Jenkins home. This is your Jenkins home directory. You remember these directories and files? So you have nodes, you have plugins, your config.xml, your jobs, and your users, and also we have, where is that, secrets? So secrets, and then so we have initial admin password. So initial admin password. There is initial admin password. Okay. Well, every time you want to see the Jenkins configurations, you must log into the container. But I don't want to log into the container. And moreover, I don't want my users to log into containers. Or else, without logging into Jenkins container, can I see my Jenkins files and directories? So that is possible. That's also possible. So you don't need to log into Jenkins container if you want to see the Jenkins home directory. So how? Again, we have host. So how do we do that? So Docker run Jenkins, and then first go with the port number. What port number? Let's say 8082. Why not 8081? Already there is another container is running or map onto it. So I'm going with 8082. Okay. So first host port number, then container port number, then what else? Hyphen V. So what is V stands for? V stands for volume. So volume. So what is volume? So how do you make your, this is a very important and frequently asked question. how we can make our containers persistent. So what do you mean by containers persistent? So by default, containers are inconsistent in nature. They are not persistent. What do you mean by not persistent? So for example, I'm going to delete my container. So if I delete my container, will I be able to access my data on the container? You understand the question? So I have some data saved on my container. I've created some files, I've created some directories, something I have done. Now the container is deleted. Can I access the same data from the container? Not possible. Why it's not possible? Data is stored. Where is the data is stored? In the container. So if you remove the container, how you'll be able to access the data? For example, go with the first container I have run for Ubuntu. I don't remember the container name. Say this one, something, whatever it is. That should be that one. Okay. But so if I remove the data, so if I remove the container, can I access the data on the container? Not possible. Your container itself is deleted. How you can access the data? That's why containers are not persistent by default. That is what we call not persistent. Okay. You see that I want to remove the container. How do I remove the container? Docker rm and then container ID. So that is how you remove the container. Now, can I log into the container now? No, the container itself is deleted. How you will be able to log in? How you will be able to access the data? That's not possible. Okay. But what if I want to have my data saved even after deleting my containers? So I want to make my containers persistent. Are you clear? I want to make my container persistent. Now you understand what is persistent means? Even the container is deleted, the data must not be deleted from the container. So that is what is persistent. Now, in our example, Jenkins example, so where is the data is saved on the Jenkins? Within Jenkins home directory. Where is the Jenkins home directory? Where Jenkins underscore home. Now I'm going to map that onto my host. Why I'm going to map that onto my host? Why? Sorry. Why we are mapping that Jenkins container home directory onto the host? Why we are mapping it? Even if the container is deleted, the data is saved on the host. Okay, so let's see. So what is volume means? So V stands for volume. How you can make your container persistent? By mapping the volume of the container onto the host. Now on my host, I want to map it to the some directory. Go with some, make some directory. Let's say Jenkins, something like new home, and that is the path of your host. Then what is the path of the container? /var and then Jenkins underscore home. And make sure whenever you map them, the default numbers, the default port number or else the default path must be matched. If you mean, that means if the names are something different, if the port numbers are not different, port numbers are different, we won't be able to map the ports or else volumes. Okay. Then what else? Let's enter. Let's do it. Okay. Again, the same error. We forgot to mention the tag. So what is that? 2.60.3. Okay, but we have something else. What is that? So we have permission denied. It's a wrong volume permission. So what do you mean by wrong volume permission? So this path, this is my host path, right? On my host, I'm making some directory. Whenever you make some directory on the host, your host must give us some permission to do it. So I'm going with giving some permission to my host with -u and then root. What is the U stands for? User. So I'm giving my Docker host as in root user permission. Now, so do that again. So you have container running. So let's see. This is everything. This is your initial admin password. You know that. Now let me open another window of my host. So Docker PS. So what is the latest one? Which is 8082. That's the latest one. Okay. Then, so Docker inspect. Okay. So I'm going to inspect my container. Enter. So there is your IP address. Okay. And then let's find the port number and then also volume. Port number is 8082 and then the volume, this is the default volume. I want to see the host volume. You can see the host volumes here. There is my source or host volume. Okay. Well, now let's go with. So what is that? Under root, Jenkins, new home, and then so you have all the directories. So let's see that secrets directory, secrets, and then open the initial admin password file. So this is a password ending with BBCC. Is it the same one which we have it on the container? So it has been successfully mapped. Now, so every change, for example, onto this container, I'm creating some jobs, I'm installing plugins, and all these changes will be stored in our host directory. Okay, so this is how we can make our containers persistent. Now I stop the container, then Docker ps -a. So what is a container? I think this should be the container. I remove the container now. So Docker, how to remove a container? rm and then id. Now the container is deleted. How about my root? Is it deleted? The home directory is not deleted yet. But so the good practice is whenever you remove a container, you must maintain a backup first. So we'll talk about that later in the future. So how do we take the backups? How do we restore the backups? That's all secondary. But is the volume concept clear? The mapping. So we are seeing two important concepts today: port number mapping, volume mapping. These are very, very important. Well, Docker ps -a. So I have a number of containers, right? How do I remove a container? Command is docker rm and then id. Then how do I remove the image? Docker rm I stands for image, and whatever you want to remove, just take the image name or id. I'm not able to remove this. Why? So I have some containers associated with this image. So yesterday I've created, sorry, yesterday I've created these two images, right? So these two containers from this image. So it's not allowing us to remove the image, but I want to remove the image. Yes, you can do it still. Docker RMI and then with hyphen F. F stands for forcefully. Now that is deleted. Okay. Docker ps hyphen E. Okay. So why I was not able to delete that image? Now previously you see that these two containers were created with the help of which image? Hello world image. Now image is deleted. So I don't see the image names here. I see something else. So that's the reason it was not allowing us to remove the images. So this is never recommended. If you have any containers created from that image, so do not remove the image. Okay. But now, can I start these containers? If the image is removed, can I start the containers? So try that from your side. Now, I want to remove all my containers. I don't want to remove one by one. I want to remove all my containers. Docker rm and then so dollar within the dollar. How do you list all the containers? What is the command to list all the containers? ps hyphen u. What is the command? You understand the command? So what docker ps hyphen e gives? List of all containers, and then what is the dollar stands for? The value. So whatever the output we are getting with the help of ps hyphen a, take the value and then pass the value to the rm command. Okay, enter. So it has removed anyway. So let me show you. Docker ps hyphen a. Except one container, rest of the containers are deleted. Why? Status is up. It's in running status. So if the containers are running, you are not able to delete the containers. You stop the containers, then you can remove the containers. Okay. So this is how you do the port number mapping and how you do the volume mapping and remove commands. So the commands we have discussed are important, even the concepts are important. And all the concepts we practice in Docker, you need them even in Kubernetes. In Kubernetes, when you go to these volumes and the port number mapping, you should be automatically able to understand them. It's not so, because when I go with Kubernetes, I will be running the containers, creating containers, so writing some scripts in Kubernetes. At that time, you must understand what is port, what is volume. Okay. So try all these examples from your side today. Try with a different type of commands. So especially volume, port number, and the commands we have tried today, execute command. So these are the three important things from today's session. Okay. So try with Ubuntu and try with CentOS image, try with Jenkins. Those who are, if you are interested, try with Tomcat as well. So these are the images you can practice for today. So Ubuntu, Jenkins, try with CentOS, and then also try with Tomcat. Launch a Tomcat image and by mapping the port number onto the host, and try to access the Tomcat from the host. What's the default port number of Tomcat? See, if you are not sure about the default port numbers, just go with the the page Docker Hub. There you can see under description and image is links. Under description you can see image. Click on description. So it's downloading English. Why this is this page? But I think I just again try this. So it's not loading. This happening. Might be some buttons, keypad. Okay. Anyway, so you try that. Okay, it's not loading. Go to the description page. Now you can see these options with -P and -V. So the default port numbers and default so volumes. You can see all this information in the description page. Click on the description. You'll be able to see this. Okay. If you are not sure about these port numbers, how do I know what is the default port number of Jenkins? How do I know what is the default volume for this Jenkins? Okay, and go to description. There will be a description here in detail. You can just read the description. Okay. Yeah. Any questions? So is it easy? Interesting, right? Docker is interesting. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.